So one thing couldn't be any more clear is that Bob Iger's cost containment plan, aka his cost-cutting measures being applied to all the divisions over at the Walt Disney Company, truly are wreaking havoc on every single production to date, whether it's in pre-production or in production or principal photography. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of problems going on over at Disney between Bob Iger, the board of directors, and let's not forget about the top three shareholders at the core of it all: BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So, one thing about Bob Iger now is that we know that in the wake of him announcing that Disney live-action remakes and everything related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe would be doubling down on breaking away from source material and also enhancing their DEI agenda. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is what it stands for those of you that do not know about that. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of drama going on with Dwayne The Rock Johnson behind the scenes, revolving around the Moanna franchise, or the Moanna brand under Disney, right? Now, this is not a big shocker after all. We know that his contract is a very complex one over at Disney, a very expensive one at that, I must add. But there's been a lot of things going on between The Rock and, of course, the Disney heads, revolving around not just, of course, Moanna 2, but also the third film and even the live-action adaptation. Let's get into it. Now, of course, we already know that Bob Iger made it very clear just a couple of days ago that DEI will not stop in 2025. In fact, it's going to actually be all the more, doubled down by Bob Iger and the board of directors with every single movie moving forward. Now, with Bob Iger and the board of directors heading into full damage control and panic mode over all their divisions, one major development now has much to do with Disney's situation revolving around Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and how drama is already beginning to spark between him and the Disney heads. Now, it turns out that The Rock is already beginning to put his foot down against those like Bob Iger after one of Iger's big plans right now for both Moanna 3, the animated film in the works, along with the live-action adaptation of Moanna, which is also set to star The Rock, and how he is set to double down, of course, against Bob Iger's usage of DEI and other agendas spilling into the various films that Iger is aiming to bring over the next couple of years. Now, it turns out that the live-action 2026 film is going under major revisions and alterations, with new DEI hires, of course, entering the cast and taking over, along with DEI lectures spilling into the production of the film, that The Rock is already beginning the battle against the Disney heads and is already presenting a recent ultimatum that he would be willing to step down from both his live-action appearance in the Moanna movie, along with his voice acting for the third animated film that's already in early development. Now, with the second film slated for November of this year, The Rock is already beginning to warn Disney that he would be willing to take the consequence of not appearing at the world premiere for Moanna 2, and also exiting many PR interviews planned for the film, which would obviously hinder its promotion. Now, Disney board members are already beginning to head into panic since they were banking on both Moanna 3, the promotion of Moanna 2, and the live-action version to bring in at least $2 billion worldwide just for starters, via the Disney analysts that were presented to the board via the emergency meeting. Now, Bob Iger and the board, however, are still doubling down on representing the LGBTQ community with some new major characters as the focus for Moanna 3 and the live-action version of the film, along with some various story changes for the live version that The Rock heavily disagreed with. However, Disney's contract with The Rock is said to be very complex and expensive, like we discussed earlier in this video. With The Rock actively going through tons of drama with other studios as it is, Disney is at the top of the list here, with the Moanna drama beginning to ramp up behind the scenes, with multiple ultimatums from Dwayne. Now, Bob Iger and the board have already discussed casting someone else for the live-action role. However, Dwayne's contract is already signed for the 2026 film that is going through major revisions that Johnson, of course, heavily had issues with that break away from the first film's story. Now, this comes shortly after Bob Iger announced that many Marvel films and Disney live-action adaptation films would break away from the source material to enhance an unexpected experience from fans of these Disney brands. Now, guys, let me just say one thing before I move on about this, is that look, whether you're a fan or not of Dwayne The Rock Johnson, I get it, 100% I do. People have differing opinions on him for various reasons, and that's fine, that's welcome below in the comments. But we have to say one thing here, at the very least, he is an individual taking a stand against Disney in a similar fashion to Ryan Reynolds, and also to a degree of what Henry Cavill did with other studios out there, especially Netflix. So there's a lot of things going on here with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Now look, they want to really kind of double down on their usage of multiple communities spilling into the Moanna live-action remake. Of course, breaking away from source material from the animated film, breaking away from those traditions, as well as shoehorning in DEI, alright, everything related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, everything to do with their representation of the LGBTQ community, getting inserted into Moanna for some new major characters that would not be considered quote-unquote vague presentations, alright? So that's very much a big deal. We know that a lot of people, even within the LGBTQ community, and they have voiced their opinions here in the comments, are also against Disney's nonsense agenda, and that is also very revealing. It just goes to show you the current state of Disney, the current state of all of their divisions, especially, of course, Marvel Studios. We'll have more to talk about that in the coming days. But Bob Iger, again, lying to everyone, lying to the shareholders, to the quote-unquote customers about quieting down the noise and breaking away from any so-called agenda. Well, that's all a big ruse, right? Because he wants to double down on all of that. Now, with Disney, of course, and their major focus now on inserting numerous LGBTQ characters in Moanna 3 and Moanna live action, that is reportedly set to not be a vague presentation, The Rock is keeping Disney in panic mode by standing by his decision to not present himself at the Moanna 2 world premiere come this holiday season, and it's already looking to get worse over the summer for Bob Iger and the drama surrounding that. So again, I mean, we know that Dwayne has had some issues before in the past with other studios, and it goes both ways in certain circumstances, sure, but in this case, you know, I think that Disney is getting what they deserve, 100%. Now, look, we know that at the same exact time, Moanna 2 could very well be another Wish situation where it could very well not, you know, live up to their box office projections or anything that they are expecting to turn out in the movie theaters. So that's another thing that's, you know, been discussed between Bob, the board, etc., etc. So overall, I would really love to hear what you all have to say about the ongoing productions over at the Walt Disney Company, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.